I was the one who was assisting. But remember that we also had the old site that we could kind of mirror, and at least we had something to start with. And I think that was really helpful as well. So it's not that we were starting from zero.
Exactly.
I think
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
The question about where did you find all the sites? So that's a really interesting because we still kind of keep adding, and very often what's happening is we get emails or a colleague of ours sent something about like, oh, look at this site, or I did something with my students, and that's pretty much how things get added. Because we learn from other people who are teaching or tutoring ESL students.
Yeah. I don't know if I missed the question here, but it said, in each category, there are so many materials on the web. What criteria did you use to select materials? Yeah, we had a bunch of resources come in, and then we did have to go through every single resource and see. We kind of just worked on it together and decided, is this something that's helpful? Is this something that's going to, or is it something that we already have on here? Or is this something that might be useful or fun for learners? And we can kind of show you on the website a little bit more of that later. How much stuff did you throw away, or what was the threshold to put the information on the website? Kind of same sort of question. There were some broken links that came in, and anything with a broken link, we just got rid of.
Yeah, there's also a question about if the site is available in multiple languages. So when we were creating this site and thinking about our students, all our students are ESL learners. They all study English as a second language. So I think this particular site would be really helpful for students who are English language learners. But I know there are probably people here who maybe teach Spanish or some other languages. So this might not be the best resource, but it might give you a very good idea for how to approach the whole project and maybe build one for your students if they are Spanish learners or any other languages that you might teach.
Yeah. So I don't know if we should move on now to the tour. Okay. So thank you for your questions. We'll leave some time at the end if we missed any questions as well. But for now, we wanted to give you a tour of the actual website so you can see it. So I will go to that now. So this is what it looks like when you first go to the page. And again, we talked about the 16 categories. They're all right here on the page. So there's the top 4 skills: speaking, listening, reading, and writing. And then, like I mentioned, the grammar and vocabulary. Got some other skills here, some testing skills, and some college resources. And then things like everyday English and corpus tools, computer literacy, games, and apps. So those are the 16 categories that we have for the students. So I'm just going to show you what it kind of looks like when you click in any of these categories. So under listening, for example, if you click on that, it's then divided into subcategories. So it's a little bit easier to manage. So you've got general listening sites, which is just not under any specific category. And you can scroll through there and get to different resources. And then, one thing I wanted to mention is that each resource, there's a short description of what it is, what's contained in there, and then the link itself. And this one right here that I'm pointing to is actually Monica's father's favorite resource. He actually does use this one a lot. And just to kind of show you, there's another version of that same resource. So I'll click on it. And it takes you right there to the resource. And this is like news for different levels. So beginning level, intermediate, advanced. But that's basically how you would navigate through the site. And then you can click back on this top left-hand title right here to get back to the main page. And now I'm going to let Monica tell you a little bit about the teacher. This is on the student side. I'm going to let her tell you about the teacher side.
Mm-hmm. So let's take a look at the teacher resources. And before I start, I also wanted to say that originally we did not plan to have a page for teachers, but as we were compiling different resources for our students, we realized that we had a pretty long list of resources that might be helpful for ESL, EFL teachers. So this, and then also Lara had a couple of extra weeks at the end of last spring. So we just decided to add it. And again, we have different categories here on this page. And the category that I appreciate a lot, especially nowadays, is the open educational resources. And again, as I learn about a new resource, we just keep adding. But one that I wanted you to pay attention to, one that is my favorite resource, it's called Green Tea. And it is a resource that was created by a couple of my colleagues at Portland Community College. It was created for English communication skills classes, intermediate level. Again, that can be used by community college teachers, but also I think intensive English language programs. When you scroll down, you will see that the resource is divided into 6 different units, and each unit has a theme. And then within each unit, there are a lot of different activities, listening, vocabulary, reading, and speaking activities that are pretty much ready to go. So it's a wonderful resource for the teachers, but also for the students because it's free, which is very important nowadays, I think. So this is just one of them. But again, there are plenty of resources available here, and the same thing as with the student resources, we keep adding and we keep maintaining the site.
Yeah, I did want to add that at the current time, we have about around 580 links, different resources on this site. That's just what we currently have. We're planning on keeping it maintained and keeping it updated, so that may change as well. Okay, so at this time, we just want to take the time to acknowledge how we were able to put this website together. So we were able to put this Google site together due to the contributions of resources from a number of teachers and colleagues in the field. And we want this resource, this website, to be available for anyone to use. And we hope that it'll be helpful for both students and for teachers. And so here is a link. We'll put this in the chat. This is a link to our Padlet presentation, and it has all the information that we covered today, where you can access the different documents we talked about. It also has the link to our website. And you can also on this Padlet make any comments that you'd like to make, or you can ask questions on the Padlet. And so that's in the chat for you.
Okay, so I think we are reaching the end of our presentation. We actually have 4 minutes left for questions. So again, if you would like to put some questions in the chat box here on the Zoom call, or if you just want to use the link and go straight to the Padlet and I don't know, leave questions, suggestions, or comments there, please do so. And then also, Laura, if you go to the next slide, you can also see that our email addresses are listed here, and feel free to email us if there's anything that you can think of after the session. Thank you.
Yeah, and there's a question there. Is there a search field for the website? There is not. That would be really helpful. We've gotten some suggestions and things and some other comments about things that we might be able to add, but I don't know how limited Google Sites is. It might be a little too limited for that, but it's worth us checking into. Thank you for asking. And yes, can you share the link with your colleagues? Please do share it. Please share it with anyone. We want this to be helpful for anyone and everyone that might be able to use it.
Excellent. Yeah, and I also, sorry, can I say one more thing? I noticed a question, I think it was asked at the very beginning of the presentation. Somebody asked about how we use the resource. So I just wanted to say that I think the reason why I was thinking about it when I was managing our learning center was because very often we had students coming to meet with one of our tutors, and the students were asking for maybe some resources that they could use outside of the class to practice their English. So I think that was the original idea, to build something so I can give to my tutors, so then the tutors can share with our students. But I'm sure even if you are a teacher, not necessarily managing any kind of learning center, you always have students who ask, oh, teacher, what can I do outside of the class? I want to improve this or that. So yeah, it was the site is great just for our students to give them some resources that are available for free, but also if you are in any kind of, if you work in any kind of environment when you are mentoring tutors, I think it's also really helpful for the tutors, so then they have something to offer to their students.
Great point. Yeah, thanks for bringing that up, Monica. We've had a few questions also in the chat coming up about data on site traffic and usage. Do you, with this particular site, use any sort of analytics or other tools to see how the site is being used?
Yeah, that's a great question. And someone a few weeks ago had actually asked us about that as well. So that is something that I believe is possible to do with this site. And it is something that we want to look into getting set up, because we do want to know how often it's being accessed. So
yeah, that is something that you can easily set up through Google Analytics, which is also free. It's probably about a 3 or 4 step process to connect the analytics to the website with a specific site identifier. And then for free, you get all the demographics about the number of unique users, the where people are signing in from, and how long they're staying on different pages and like things like that. So since you've invested the time in creating such a fantastic resource for both students and teachers, that's something that you might want to look into. And I hope that answers your question, Shannon. Let's see, anything else coming in from the chat? Just a few suggestions, lots of very positive feedback saying thank you for collating all of these resources and explaining how you did it with Google Site. I think the Padlet that you put together really did create a nice process and step-by-step support for your thought process and how you created and have used the site to engage learners with the content that you've collected and curated. So yes, many, many other thanks and great presentation comments coming in. So we do have about 3 or 4 more minutes here. So if the presenters are willing to stay on for another minute or 2, if anyone has a question that they would like to ask either on mic or through the chat, now would be the time. Or if there's anything else you'd like to see again, or if you need to see the link to that Padlet. Let's see, we did just have a question come in from Anthony asking about your plan for keeping the site maintained and current, but how much time do you spend per week taking care of the site?
That's a great question. I am currently finishing my degree. I'll be done and I'll graduate in June. So after that point, I plan to be more diligent with it. But right now, I probably only have about an hour per week to spend on maintaining the site. And right now it's more manageable. So Monica will send me resources as she gets them and she'll ask me, is this something that we should add to the site? And we'll kind of go back and forth and share resources, but not too much time per week lately. Might look into it more a bit later. Would you say that's about right, Monica?
Yeah, I agree. I have also noticed that Maria has her hand up. I don't know if we have time for a question.
What's your question, Maria?
Thanks, ladies. This is really great. I'm doing a site as well at my school, and I had a grad student help me with it as well. And it's also a Google site. So it's been very helpful. A couple of things I just wanted to know if you guys knew, or anybody out there that's listening has insight on, is the like a Google search within the site, because as we're adding things and doing things, it would be very helpful to have like a search tool for, I don't know how to do that yet. And then also the language translation tool. We do have that embedded from Google, but it's erratic and not as user-friendly as one would hope. So I'm wondering if anyone has a tool or tools that are free, free being the key word here, and that are user-friendly.
Yeah, I would like to know actually if there is a way to add a search bar in the website, in the Google site. I'm not aware of it currently, but I mean, it's worth looking into. I don't know if anyone else knows, but
I have not had that function with any of the Google sites that I've built. Usually they're fairly compact in terms of the amount of content. But if anybody has that information, we would like to see that in the chat. And as far, Maria, in terms of whole page translation tools, I know there are many commercial options available, but apart from Google Translate, which, as you mentioned, is not always the most reliable, I am not currently aware of full page or full section translation tools that are completely free, but I will keep my eyes and ears open. And if anyone knows, in this community of participants, we would love to hear what you have found. Let's see, it looks like a couple of things might be coming in as well in the chat. So we are nearing the end of our time today. So I want to thank you both for sharing your work and your process and making this all so accessible to our audience. We really appreciate your time. And audience, thank you for attending today and your comments and questions throughout the session. This has been a Let's Learn Live session, part of the Electronic Village. We have shared for you here on the screen several ways to engage with TESOL's Call IS. And if you have not yet participated in the Electronic Village, I will share a link, which it is a Google site, by the way, that you can visit during the rest of your time during the convention. There we go, up in the chat. So we will go ahead and end this first presentation in our duo of Let's Learn Live sessions. So thank you both. And we will go ahead and get things set up for our next presenter, which is going to be beginning here in just a moment. And those in the audience, you're welcome to stay.
Who's the next presenter? What is the topic?
All right, I will be telling you that right now. Excellent. Okay. Well, welcome to those of you who might just be tuning in for our next Let's Learn Live session, part of the TESOL Electronic Village this year. Our next session is going to be featuring Victoria Dieste, who is going to be sharing her session, Creating Visually Appealing Content in a Nutshell. And she is going to be sharing some tips and tricks for designing visually attractive and effective materials in a time-effective way, something that we teachers always appreciate. She's going to be sharing some free digital tools that offer ready-made templates for presentations, visual organizers, and games that will save you busy teachers time and keep students engaged. So welcome, Victoria. I will mute myself here and turn things over to you.
Thank you, Heather. I'm gonna then be sharing my slides, if that's okay. There you go. Okay, so good morning, afternoon, and evening. It is afternoon here in Uruguay. And I'll be sharing, as Heather said, creating visually appealing content in a nutshell. So first of all, I would like to thank TESOL International for giving us this space, and Electronic Village in particular. I love Electronic Village. I wish I could be in Pittsburgh right now, but I am not. I'm in Uruguay, and I will tell you a little bit more about Alianza Uruguay, Cultural Uruguay Estados Unidos, which is my workplace and has been for almost 20 years. I actually got my teaching degree also at the Alianza. So basically, I've done all my professional development here. And part of what I'm sharing is what we use at Alianza, along with, of course, other resources. So here is my contact information. I will share it at the end as well. And I will make available all the presentation and the slides to anybody who writes to me. So if you want to take notes, go ahead. But I will also be sharing the slides, and also in the notes, I've added the resources I'm using in this presentation. If you have any questions throughout the presentation, just unmute yourself and ask. I won't be able to be following the chat and the presentation at the same time. And if not, at the end, I'll be glad to answer any questions or by email later. Another thing I wanted to point out is that you can share other resources as we go through the presentation. I will share some, but I'm sure that there are many others. So I think that it's very useful if we are sharing all at the same time. And it's easier for you to look at the chat. So I won't be mentioning them, but you can share with the rest. Okay, so let's get started. I work, as I said, at Alianza Cultural Uruguay Estados Unidos, which is the binational center in Uruguay. We have 36 branches all around the country. So we are a pretty big center, and we promote US culture and English through the culture, through the teaching and learning of the English language, among other programs that we have. I am the Associate Academic Director right now. I'm actually taking over a different position soon. I'll be the Director of Innovation and Development. And so design is part of what I do. And of course, it's also part of what I do as a teacher. And the resources I'm going to be sharing with you today are resources that are specifically thought for teachers. Okay, so let's get started. So what is visual learning, and why design comes into all this? So I won't get into learning styles. I know there's a big, huge debate on whether learning styles are still valid or not. I won't get into that. I would need a longer presentation, but I will say that I do believe that visual learning is important. It has become even more important, I guess, through pandemic times, and especially when we have students learning in virtual context, when they were not aiming to learn in virtual context. At the Alianza, we work with online learning, and we've worked with online learning for many, many years. And there are students that would like to continue working in virtual environments. There are others that have come to work in virtual environments with the pandemic. And some have decided that it's a pretty awesome way to learn, and they will stick to that. Some others still need the in-person classes. But for all of them, in person or virtually, I think that visual learning is extremely important. So there's an interesting article, and I linked it to the presentation, and the link is also there, that talks about what happens when we are processing images. And it talks about virtual learning in particular. I will stick to images right now, because if we talk about visuals in general, we can also talk about video, for example. And when we're processing video, many times we're processing images, audio, and sometimes text even, and things get a little more complicated. But when we're processing images, I guess that we can all agree that we do it faster. And I won't get into how much faster, because I've read numerous articles saying 50%, 60%, different numbers. So I won't give you one, but I think that we can all agree that it is faster, okay? It also helps us understand very complex concepts. So when we look at an image, sometimes we can understand a very, very complex concept that we would not be able to understand just by reading text. And I think that the most important one for language teachers is that it helps us remove language barriers. So when we are processing images over text, all these three things are true. There's this very neat GIF in the article. I included it in the presentation that I think it's self-explanatory, and it has a lot of content, a lot of concepts about how to categorize your trash with very, very just a few words, okay, and a lot of images, and of course, a movement. GIFs are very easy to create. The tools I'm going to be sharing today are not specifically for GIF creating, but for example, Canva is one that you can use to create GIFs, and there are a few others. But there are also a lot of ready-made GIFs as this one that will help out, especially when we're talking about very, very low levels. So I think that we agreed that visual learning is important. And then why is design important behind visual learning? If we're not careful on how we design our visuals, it's just more confusing, okay? And it will just add up one more layer of trying to understand your visuals to get the meaning out of them. There's this amazing company called Neonam. I don't think that we'll ever get close to this kind of graphics and design. But Neonam students have these 13 reasons why infographics or why your brain craves infographics. This is an amazing infographic. It's very, very long, and it is full of data, very interesting data and articles linked to the infographic. You can see little numbers here. I don't know if you can see them. Again, the link is in my presentation. But basically, this one is specifically about infographics, and it tells us how important and how much more visually wired our brain is, and then why visuals are so important, and design behind these visuals are so important. So 50% of our brain is involved in visual processing, 70% of all our sensory receptors are in our eyes, and a lot more interesting information. I don't have to say that this image says a lot more than all these texts. Of course, as English teachers, we would like our students to understand this text, and that will be part of the learning process. But especially with lower levels, visuals would be key in trying to understand concepts. And another thing I want to say about infographics is that as digital learners, we of course need to understand and be able to read infographics as part of the reading skills that we need to teach our students. And I also believe that we need to teach our students how to create infographics. One of the tools that I'm going to share with you today is called Genially, and it's infographics is one of the tools that you can create with this app. And I think that the process would be first, of course, be able to read an infographic and understand the complexity of it. And then, of course, teach our students how to create infographics as part of the skill set that they need nowadays. Especially teenagers, but also adults might have a hard time reading infographics and, of course, creating them. And in, of course, the information overload we live in, infographics play a big role. I will just end this with that they are more engaging. 80% of the times they say they are fun and engaging, and you can get a lot more information in this infographic about the importance of it. So I hope by now I have convinced you that visual learning is something, and that the design behind this visual learning is very important in order for it to be effective. Now, what happens? We're not designers. Teachers are busy, as Heather was saying, and besides, we are really not designers. So I believe that the best way to go about this is to work with templates of different things that were created by people who know about design, and that we can use the best practices inside these templates in order to create and design our own visuals. One of the apps I'm going to show you, or the tools I'm going to show you, is Slides Carnival. I am saying that you can do it in almost no time, because actually everything takes time, but using these templates will take a lot less time than if you're doing it on your own from scratch. And the most important, in my opinion, is that it will be more effective than if you do it and start from scratch. I don't want to, maybe there are great designers among the audience, so I'm talking to those that are more like me, who know very little about design, okay? Just in case, I don't want to offend anybody. So the first one is Slides Carnival. Slides Carnival is a website that has a lot of different templates to create presentations. Of course, this one I'm presenting right now was created with a Slides Carnival template. You will see that they are categorized by topic and by type of presentation as well. And here you can just choose one. I chose this one to show you. After you choose the one that you want to use, you can either download it as a PowerPoint presentation or make a copy as Google Slides. And if you're using Google Slides, you can also, of course, collaborate. Shannon has a question. Go ahead.
Thank you. I was just wondering if you know if these websites are creating infographics that are accessible for us at a community college in the US. I am required for accessibility.
Sure. Yes, I understand. The one I showed, this one, yes, for sure. And the ones that you will find in Genially, I would say 99% yes, as long as you keep the format, the colors, and the sizes that are in the templates. And that's what I meant with best practices. If I'm using this template, but then instead of using this font, I decide to change the font, or instead of using the icons that appear in the template, I start making a lot of changes, then that accessibility and that design will be lost. Okay?
Thank you. Yeah, wonderful. Sure. Thank you.
Okay. So for instance, this is one of the slides that you will get in the template I use, Big Concept. As I was saying, if you change the font of Big Concept, or if you change the color, if you change the icon, and you start, I don't know, inserting a lot of icons here and there, then the simplicity and this and the clarity of the slide would be lost. Okay. Same thing here. This is another slide from this template I used. A picture is worth as 1,000 words. If you want to change the picture and include an icon, okay, it might be useful. But then if you start putting pictures here and there, then this is not the slide to put a lot of pictures. So what I'm trying to say is that all these templates, all the tools that I'm going to show are designed specifically to engage and to be simple. And then if you keep that, you will be keeping the best practices in presentations. And once you open a Google slide from Slides Carnival, you will see that all the best concepts of presentations are represented in the slides that you get to use and that the template brings. Another tool I wanted to share is Whimsical. Whimsical is a tool to create mind maps, flowcharts, and also wireframes. I'm just going to show you a mind map. Okay, this one I created it for this presentation. So I was going to talk about Slides Carnival, Whimsical. I'm not going to talk about Canva. I'm going to talk about Genially later on. But Canva is also a great resource for visually appealing materials. Here you have the menu, and as you can see, you can collaborate with others. It allows you to include notes and post-its. I use post-its for instructions, so instructions might be here. And one of the things that I like about Whimsical is that you can share it with others and collaborate. You can do both. You can share and collaborate. So if you just share, it will create a link. And you can use a password. I'm just saying TESOL for this one. And I'm gonna log out. So I can show you that by using the link, I can access the mind map. And I'm gonna just write TESOL here. And you will see that I can look at it. I can make it bigger or smaller, but I cannot edit. in order to edit, I need to create an account. Of course, this is free, but students will need an account if you want them to be editing or working collaboratively in the creation of mind maps or the flow charts. Okay, so last two for today, so I can leave some time for questions, is Genially. Genially, I would need, I don't know, maybe two-week workshop to let you know everything that is inside Genially. They do have a lot of different resources that you can access, and a lot of templates and ready-made games, presentations, infographics for you to use. And the truth is that it's two things: very user-friendly. It's also collaborative, and you could have a premium account if you wanted to, but you can also use a lot of their material for free. Okay. So the one I like the most is the gamification section. But as I said, you have infographics and presentations. You also have interactive images. I don't know if you know what those are. I created this one some time ago for explaining what's inside one of our courses, and you basically can include a text. This is in Spanish because actually it's the description was in Spanish, but you can have, for example, videos inside and explanations about what they can find, or instructions. So this is very useful for when you have a new course and you need to let students know where are the different things in your course. Those are interactive images. For games, again, you can have a lot of different options. I think I didn't share my presentation with audio, so you won't be able to listen to the audio. I'm sorry for that. The ones I like the most are escape games. Escape games are very popular with teens nowadays, but I think that they are also very fun for adults. And I'm gonna just show you this example. One of my kids is a maniac about Harry Potter, so whenever I see these kind of icons, I always use these. And this one is pretty fun. In this case, this specific template has a lot of information already inside, but you will see that everything is very well explained on where is that you need to make the changes. In this case, this is about potions and it has a recipe, but then you will see that there's a click here. This is what you will have to, of course, students will not see that. And this is what you have to edit in order to get the correct one. In escape rooms and in all the other quizzes and games, you will see that there are some that have a premium star. I use, as you can see, the free site, and you will see that there are many free ready-made templates. Some of them, like this one, don't have any information inside, and what they do have is just the connections and the path that you have to follow in order to play the breakout room. Some others have content, so you could use those if you find one that will work for one of the contents that you want to teach. So you can have both, like ready-made, easy and basic with no information, or ready-made with information. And these are the templates that you can find inside Genially. I've also found many Genially already made, for example, escape rooms that teachers share online. I remember I used one about the Olympics some time ago, which was a great one, and teachers share that online. So you just write escape room and then Genially together, and then you will find some that are already made. I hope that many of you have included more apps in the chat as I was speaking. I'm gonna be closing up, so I have some time for questions. This is my contact information. So you can write an email or contact me through social media in order to get the presentation or to exchange about other visually appealing apps. And I'm free to ask any questions. I don't know, Heather, how you wanna work it out?
We can do questions that come in through the chat. I'll be happy to pass those along to the group. Or if you'd like to raise your hand to be able to turn your mic on, that will work as well. Lots and lots of thank yous and great resources coming in through the chat as expected. Yeah, 2 of these were new for me as well, so I can't wait to get in and play with some of the things that you shared today. Lots of people also saying they can't wait to get in and try the resources. Let's see.
Yes, and if you have any questions after you start playing, of course you can email me and I can help you out. There are a lot of with Genially, one thing I didn't say is that there are a lot of ready-made like tutorials that Genially has. So aside from the instructions that you get once you click on use the template, you also can have some tutorials from Genially and then in YouTube others.
Yes, let's see. We've got one question from Eva asking, would you say Genially is as easy to use as Canva?
Yeah, I would say so. Yeah, definitely. It has, you need to kind of understand the different paths, especially if you're using presentations. But again, if you use it as it is and you just change the content, then it's very easy to use. Once you get a little bit more expert, then you can make more changes into the presentations or the games.
Excellent, thank you. Let's see, we've seen a couple of other resources named in the chat. PictoChart for creating infographics, SlidesGo for using or for other presentation slides, and a lot of other ideas coming in and being shared. So thank you, audience, for sharing your expertise. Flippity for creating games with Google Sheets. That one is indeed fun. Thank you for mentioning that, Kara. Let's see. Let's see.
I see somebody's asking about my presentation. Just email me. I'll write my email is here in the slides. Yes. Just email me and I'll be happy to share the presentation.
Excellent. And we are going to have this video on our Call IS YouTube channel. So you'll be able to access that there later today as well. And many people saying some of these tools were new to them as well. JP is asking about whimsical or interactive infographics on Genially. Is it hard to learn? Are there tutorials? I will answer one question on that, JP. We are featuring, and I'll show everyone in just a moment, today, actually, the topic in the Electronic Village for Genially is creating interactive infographics. So I'll pull that up in just a moment. I will let you speak to tutorials on Whimsical or anything else you found helpful with Genially.
Yeah, so as I was saying, Genially has its own tutorials on their webpage, and those are very helpful. And also in YouTube, there are many others. There are many teachers using Genially, so there are a lot of tutorials on how to. And Whimsical as well. Whimsical is a lot more it's a lot simpler than Genially. So it's actually in 2 or 3 minutes, you will just see the options, and it's a little bit more self-explanatory than Genially. Genially has a lot more potential, so of course it's more difficult to use. Whimsical, it's pretty basic. It's nice. I think that it's visually appealing, and the way that they work out with both flowcharts and mind maps is very engaging. But it's very simple. It's more like, I would say, like a Word document or something similar. So you won't need so many tutorials. There are some, but just a few.
Thank you for that. And I think a lot of the points that you made really resonated with me, and I'm sure our audience, in terms of that it's important, even though we are busy teachers, not to overlook the value of using these tools that have some ready-made items for us to bring that design interest and visual engagement aspect to our learning materials, because it really can, in and of itself, motivate our learners and get them excited about what's going on, and some of the things like the escape rooms, it really takes learners out of that feeling like, oh, I'm in class, or oh, I'm doing my homework. And that visual environment and the design aspect makes learning immersive, exciting, and motivating. So thank you for sharing
Absolutely.
all of these tips and techniques.
Okay, thank you for the opportunity, and thank you to all the ones that were there participating very actively in the chat. I will read the chat later on to get all the resources that you shared. Thank you very much.
Super. Thank you so much for joining us today, Victoria. We're really happy to have you here.
Thank you.
And thank you, audience, as she said, for your interactive participation today. I am going to show you briefly here in my 8,000 windows I have open. Let's see. I'll just do my whole desktop, sorry. Where you can find the hands-on learning in the Call IAS Electronic Village. So here is our homepage, as I said, built with Google Sites. And at the top, we have a hands-on learning tab, and this is available to you all 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, now and after the conference. If you click there, we share some professional development information for you all about some of the tools that we're using to host the Electronic Village this year. So for example, we're not just hosting the Innovate and Implement and Best of Evo sessions on Wakelet, we also provide some information about what Wakelet is, some similar tools and resources. And we do the same for Genially. Olenka, who is here in the audience today, and another member of the steering committee, Mary, put together a lot of fantastic hands-on learning activities related to Genially. And to get to them, you just click this link right here, and you'll have the opportunity to hop inside a Genially presentation and learn about how to use Genially while you're there. Olenka has created some prompts to encourage you to use and share on Wakelet some of the things that you all create using Genially. And there are also some resources here for teachers about ways to use Genially in class. So some of those tutorials that you asked about for getting started. So a great connection, thank you, Victoria, to some of the content that we have available to you all free and on demand in this year's Electronic Village. So I will close out by encouraging you all to please check out our daily schedule, which is here on the homepage. You can participate in our daily polls, and you can access a schedule here as well of each day's events. And at the top, we have an interactive schedule with all of the session descriptions and events. So I will stop sharing that there and encourage you all to please enjoy the rest of your time learning in the convention if you're attending. And if not, thanks for joining us in the Electronic Village. Either way, I will add the link one more time here to the Electronic Village so you can get to that site easily. There you go. And again, if you're looking specifically for the Genially information on the EV site, that is under hands-on learning. We'll close here for today. In this session, we do have another one after about an hour's break, 2 more Let's Learn live sessions here in the same Zoom room. So if you are able to join us again, we hope to see you then. And thanks for learning with us. We really appreciate it, everyone.